Hey everyone. I hope you're doing well. It's I think it's definitely Tuesday. Definitely Tuesday. And I hope you all are hanging in there. I am doing a video today just in response to a lot of questions I've been receiving on Reddit, and I made a post there. I think like 2 weeks ago, just regarding my story, regarding my transition, and since then I've received quite a few messages, and I've responded to a lot of those messages, but I received a pretty lengthy message today, and I just wanted to turn some of that message into today's video because a lot of it probably is relevant to all of your experiences, and I just wanted to cover this thing and kind of use it as a structure for a video. So I actually did this video once already. This is the second iteration of this video, and when I was editing this video, I just realized I was saying the words as like this verbal crutch, and I was so annoyed with myself, I just decided to just do this video all over again. So this video is probably going to be a much shorter video, but a few of these areas of discussion are very, very important, and I think I think some of these areas I'll expand upon in later videos, but I just really wanted to get some of these questions answered and preface this by saying, I'm not I just said it again. I'm not a expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything more than a trans person who lived my life as Ashlyn for 10 years and have struggled with gender identity and gender dysphoria for my entire life. And I'm in the process now of detransition. I'm about a month in, and I am just using all of my experiences to try to help other people and to try to just be a resource for people, and that's it. So take this advice or leave it, and hopefully you'll find value, and if not, then that's fine too. So to start, I'm just going to read these questions as kind of quotations and then get into what I think is a good response that makes sense and is cohesive. So let's start there. So the first one is, quote, "But for some reason, I could never shake the feeling of wanting to be a girl. I still had so much of the same jealousy over girls regarding fashion and other stuff like that, and that caused me to hate myself quite a lot. I had a lot of depression that I tried to hide when I was around my friends." So resentment is very, very common when we are building our confidence as our female self. And when we're not quite to the point of social transition, we have this sort of life of duality. And that duality is incredibly destructive, and it's also very, very hard to put away a character that you believe is your authentic self out of necessity and put on this other mask of your masculine self when you're in these circles that you're not comfortable being, I said it again, I'm sorry. When you're not confident as either sex, I guess, or either identity, and it is common. The resentment does go away for a time when you transition. It did for me. And I did feel sort of, I didn't really feel a strong resentment, but I did feel a sense of like, man, I wish people could see this side of myself that is, pretty or sexy or attractive. And I am not an overly feminine person, but I'm also not a very masculine person in some ways. So, when I was leading up to outwardly expressing Ashlyn, it was really, really hard because I had long hair, I was kind of effeminate, and I was just in this weird gray area. And when I was in this gray area, it caused a lot of resentment. So just know that it's not abnormal to feel that. And the depression is a result of not, it's kind of a result of that duality, in my opinion. So hopefully that helps. Second question, or inquiry, or whatever. So I guess this brings us to now. I realize I definitely have gender dysphoria, and I've been having fantasies of being a girl since I was 11. I would really like to transition, although when I ask myself, how will transitioning improve my life? I'm sorry, but nobody can answer that question but you. It's a really, really hard question to answer. It's incredibly personal. It's something that you just need to figure out. And transitioning did improve my life. It improved my life substantially for quite a while. And it was my only option at the time. I was in such a deep, dark place of depression and felt hopeless that I needed to make a change in my life, and I needed to share Ashlyn with the world. And when I did that, there was a tremendous amount of just relief. And there was also this just feeling of like confidence in a way, but it was more feeling of just accomplishment. And I overcame this hurdle, and I just like found that courage and that grit, and I just was resilient, and I was just like going through all this therapy, and it was like, man, I need to lead up to this transition and just own it and own my truth and be it. And when I did that, it improved my life, and it improves a lot of people's lives, for people like you and myself. And or for those, people that are just wanting to just be authentic. And when you actually own that and you take that, it improves life substantially. In my case, though, it lasted about 10 years, and it lasted for it. When I transitioned, I got married, I finished my college, I finished all of these big milestones in my life. I got a job promotion, and I was incredibly lucky to have the support of my friends, my professional community, my family. It was pretty much the perfect, incredibly lucky situation for a trans person. And obviously I'm not deluded to the point of knowing that that's everyone's experience, but it did, those accomplishments improved my life. Owning Ashlyn as an identity, did that necessarily improve my life? I don't know. I don't know if that really did. I think since I was so motivated to transition, and I finally did transition and felt all that positive feedback, Ashlyn was able to survive longer. and longer and longer. And eventually, Ashlyn was just Ashlyn, and it was completely normalized. And so, leading to your next question, which was, I'm really worried that the novelty of being able to do the stereotypical girl things and being treated like a girl will wear off, and then what? Question mark. Um, Once you accomplish those feats, just on a social level, not necessarily medical, not thinking about passability, but just owning your truth and maybe changing your name and doing some of the legal things that you need to do. Once all of those things are over and you are to a point of feeling confident as a woman, it's completely normalized. There's novelty is not even novelty. It's just your reality. And once you're affirmed and you're feeling that affirmation, it's just like any other person, just like any other woman, just like any other man, just like anybody. And it's, for me, it felt normal for a while until it didn't anymore. And, this video is not necessarily about my experiences, but I'm kind of sprinkling those on some of these responses, and I'll elaborate on some of this later on. But yeah, I mean, being treated and affirmed as a woman, it was incredible for me, but it was also not sustainable for a number of reasons. So, not sure if that really truly answers your question, but hopefully it does. And if any of these responses are not quite what you're looking for, just shoot me another message, and I'll just respond in text probably, and I'll start compiling more questions to go over these with viewers in another video. The next one is, I know passing will be an uphill battle for me. I think I have feminine qualities and think becoming passable someday is feasible, but I also have some very masculine qualities that will be tough to undo. Well, the reality is, and I'm sure you've probably heard this, that there are plenty of women that are masculine, there are plenty of men that are feminine, and the outward expression of those characteristics are something you most likely can't control. I mean, if you have an endless budget and you have tremendous resources, you can get surgeries, and those surgeries will lead to more surgeries, and then next thing you know, you will have created an ideological version of yourself as the person you want to be. And your physical manifestation will be what it is. But for me, I felt like that cycle was never going to end. And it was just like this never ending consumption. And it was really, really, really scary. And that was part of why I decided to just stop. And, but when I was living as Ashlyn, I just used my masculine features as to my benefit. I would always get clothes on the sale rack. I would always find things that would fit me properly, and you learn, you adapt, and you can get really good at covering some of those things up. And once you learn those techniques, it again becomes normal routine, and eventually, you'll find that confidence that normal people have that we just don't have. And that's really what this whole journey is about. It's just about finding that comfort, finding that confidence, and the dysphoria just going away. And in my experience, the dysphoria kind of reversed, which was very fascinating. I spent my entire life hiding Ashlyn from the world because I was just scared of rejection and just being deemed as weird. And, eventually Ashlyn over the years was just continuously fed, and this other person created. And then I have this dual life. And then Ashlyn surpasses Dustin. Just to clarify, this is the same person. And Ashlyn needs to be seen by everybody. And once Ashlyn is seen by everybody and accepted by everybody, you'll figure out ways to enhance Ashlyn, and you'll find ways and techniques to just better present yourself, and that confidence will come with time. When I socialize, I'm not very feminine or camp. I don't know the first thing about makeup or women's fashion. I tend to be quite socially anxious. Social anxiety existed for me before I transitioned. It definitely did not go away when I transitioned at all. And hang on, I got a puppy. Okay, back. Social anxiety is just gonna be there, and the only thing you can really do to mitigate that is practice, and some people just have natural gifts of being extroverted and owning the situation or overcompensating in a dynamic, but the social anxiety is... Sorry, this is my dog, my puppy, drinking lots of water. Hey, Miko? Hey. Yeah, so social anxiety is just part of this whole thing. And for me, I was socially anxious. Then I was socially anxious when I transitioned. And now that I've kind of lived both experiences, it's, surprisingly, my social anxiety seems to be diminishing again, which is pretty cool. So anyway, next is, it just seems that the first 2 years of transition especially would be mentally taxing for me. I'll probably lose a lot of friends and family as well. Well, the transition, mental consumption and feeling mentally taxed, that's probably never going to go away. I was consumed with Ashlyn, living as Dustin, for 27 years. When I transitioned to Ashlyn, I was then consumed by trying to hide Dustin, and also consumed with insecurity of being seen as Dustin. Because when you live as a man or a male for a period of time, and you're socialized as a male, and you grow up as male, and you have a style as male, you look in the mirror and you see a male. When you transition to a woman, for a lot of people that don't have endless supply of medical resources, you'll still continue to see that male. You'll just be a little prettier and, you'll have maybe a different style. Your hair will look a little different. But for me, in my experience, I still saw Dustin when I was living as Ashlyn. And that just never went away for me. And I just always felt that need to look in the mirror over and over and over. And it was just like, good God. And that mental taxing just reinvents itself in a different way. Mental taxing just becomes insecurity, and that insecurity can just spiral. So, question is, would you still have transitioned back when you did, knowing what you know now? I don't know if I would have. I think that I probably would have. I think that my understanding of myself should have been greater before I transitioned. I think that I should have had more objective professional advice. I think that I should have had a better understanding of where the derivation of femininity was coming from. I think that there's a lot of things that didn't happen that led up to my decision. And all of those things that didn't happen allowed me to, it just kind of forced me into such a dark place that I didn't really have any other decision but to transition, because this thing was just overpowering my life and I just needed to. Otherwise, I don't know if I would honestly be here today. So I had to do this, and I had to explore this side of myself because that was my only option. And I'm glad I did. I may have mentioned that, I received a lot of success and support, and it was really good. Now that has been explored, I think I can balance and put back into harmony both sides of my personality and just love myself, own myself. And femininity is absolutely beautiful. Women are absolutely beautiful. Masculinity is beautiful, and men are absolutely beautiful, and humanity is beautiful. And without this exploration, what is life without knowing that direction? It's just part of life. And where these obstacles come in is having the courage to go down these paths and not feeling 100% accepted. And these are social things that you can't control, but all you can try to do is maneuver and negotiate your way through these challenges. The last question is the effort of transition and passing worth it? Does being socialized as male make it impossible to live authentically as a woman? That's a toughie. I thought that transitioning was going to lead me to being happy. And in my initial post in Reddit, I mentioned that when I affirmed Ashlyn, I felt it absolutely necessary to destroy Dustin and destroy everything that Dustin represented. Dustin was a shell of a person who was very insecure, very lost, and I felt the need to destroy that person. And what that only caused me was eventually, 10 years later, was just a half of a person. It was just Ashlyn, and I wasn't embracing and owning and loving and accepting Dustin. I wasn't honoring Dustin, and that was really, really, really challenging. And that is really what led to my decision to detransition, because the more I accepted Dustin and the more I accepted myself living as Ashlyn, it was just like this beautiful reunion. And I was just like, wow, this person can actually be again. And the more I affirmed Dustin and embraced that, it was just, over the course of a year. And I was just like, wow, does Ashlyn really need to be? Because we all have masculine and feminine sides of our personality, and for natal women, they're natally women who happen to maybe have some masculine aspects of their personality. For natal men, for most natal men, they also have feminine aspects of their personality, but due to social pressures and rigidity, those feminine things are looked at as not right, or they need to be suppressed, or you're not manly enough, and all this other bullshit. So, I think we just need to embrace both aspects of our personality and honor our humanity. And that's kind of what I'm doing without going too deep in this direction, but it's it's a process, and not growing up as a woman, not going through a young girl's adolescence, not going through adolescence and learning those observations and having those experiences and living in the patriarchy that we live in, definitely it doesn't devalue or invalidate your existence as a woman right now, but it makes it really, really hard for you to have authentic friendships with women that have experienced those circumstances, because that's just their reality and your reality is a lot different. So what I found was although I had a lot of friendships, it was still it was hard. I kind of felt like the odd duck a little bit, and that's okay. But it was just it. I don't think my authenticity was questioned. I think my ability to relate was in question, and in turn, that kind of just snowballed a little bit, and it was challenging. But like I said, I did find a wonderful partner and have had beautiful friendships since I transitioned. But it's just a different experience, and it's not just a different experience. It's a huge difference. Growing up as male versus, from what I understand, growing up as female. I mean, men have tremendous privilege in many different cultures. In Western culture, there's an absolute advantage most of the time. Speaking just my opinion, but young boys definitely are socialized differently, and that's just the reality. So not having any of that, it makes it really, really hard to have those common denominators with natal women. So that kind of, hopefully that sums up a lot of the questions that you had. But I just want to tell you one thing really fast is, as I'm detransitioning, I just want to say it's really, really hard to put aside Ashlyn and reintroduce myself to Dustin. My dysphoria didn't just suddenly disappear. I'll always be somewhere in between there, but right now I've felt the necessity to maintain Dustin because Dustin needed love, because Dustin was destroyed and has been destroyed for 10 years. And so knowing that, it's just been incredibly hard for me to lose this feminine, physique and expression. But what I've kind of realized is that, these physical manifestations of Ashlyn, they're real for sure, but I think for me what makes the most sense is living as Dustin and just embracing this feminine side of myself and finding a partner that accepts that and loves that and really values that. Being a feminine man that has tremendous feminine connection and just insight, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and you will be loved for that. You will be absolutely loved for that, and you bring a tremendous amount of value to a relationship that other men don't. And you just have to be patient and find that person that is your match, that loves you if you transition or not. And my partner and my we married, and we married as a as a gay couple, as a lesbian couple. And we married. She met me as Ashlyn. She didn't even know my story until we started having a romantic relationship. And she thought she was just like finding another woman that she connected with. And what's been incredible though is that she's just, she loves me for me. She doesn't care about anything else. She just loves me for me. And those people are out there for everyone else. So just be patient. And I know you're kind of on the cusp of transition right now, but just know that these are very, very permanent things that will always be with you. And these physical changes, they don't go away. So just be careful and take your time. Explore as much as you can without medical intervention, physical intervention. And just try to find acceptance with how far that goes. And if it leads you to transition, then great. And if transition leads you back to detransition, then great. At least you explored yourself, and at least you explored your humanity while you're here on this earth. And that's what this is all about. I never regretted transition, and I never will. Do I think things could have been better and more understood? Absolutely. But this is all new for a lot of people, so hopefully this video helps, and much love to you all. Take care.